All right. Recently, I have built a self-listing application, which is kind of like the Craigslist, where people can come and do a search on something and go try to find a list and find other people listing here. And yeah, we have their names here and the content. We can do searches based on things like that, right? But that's not what this video series is about. This video series is about this chatting system right here. When the non-logged in user try to click on the chat, it's gonna go ahead and direct you to either log in or join or sign up. So in this case, first of all, let's try to enter with a known user account that we already have in there. This time we're gonna go with, let's go with Michael Jordan. Right? All right, and this is his profile here. Once again, we're not gonna spend any time detailing this stuff. I will make a separate series and we'll go step by step on how I build this whole application. But in this one though, let's go straight to the chat application. And this is what this series is going to be about. This is a full-blown React application, which is direct messaging based. And this is being shown here via a shortcode using a WordPress plugin. In here, we can, these are the all the users in the chat system that are available. We can do a search, let's say, right? And then if this person is on this side, let's say this guy right here, Musarmin, he's not here. So we click on this and he shows up, and the person now can send him a message, right? And also in here, if you want to do a some sort of a search, let's say we're looking for somebody named Mar. There you go, Vilmar is here. So this is the base feature. And now to start communicating, let's go to this section here, this screen. This time though, we're going to go ahead and use a fresh new user account. Let's just say Donald Trump, and a brand new user email would be .com. And this is extremely important because this will be the actual user account that registers or signs up, because this is our way to keep the user accounts unique. And since I'm in the local system, so I'm going to keep the password symbol, which is basically pass1234. And now we're going to sign up a brand new user. There you go. Now we're going to go straight to the chat. And what's happening here is that in the background, I'm actually, as soon as the user logs in, I'm actually creating a user with the same name to the backend chat system, which is this right here, the chat engine. If we look all the way to the end, let's refresh and go to the page number 3, we find the Donald Trump user got created. And that actually happened from this application background. And now that this user has been created, so this guy now can go hit chat, and this will immediately start. And if we want to talk to the other person, Jordan, like Jordan right here, so we click on him and he shows up, and let's leave him a message. Up, and in here we immediately receive that message and we say not much, and that's how we begin communicating, right? Also, we have to show that this application is fully responsive, right? And once I go to the code, you will know that this has been the most difficult to pull off, especially on a WordPress page. I mean, all sorts of issues I had, but now it's functional. like, if you want to, this is actually pulling all the users from the backend that I just showed you. And if you want to, let's say, find somebody with V, let's say Vincent Chase, choose him, come here, Chase is here. And if you want to change the user, we go here and go back to Jordan, come back, and it's all functional. And one extra feature that my client asked that I have to deliver is that once we go to listing search, and let's say we look for some better apps for tutors. Click here. This is a category, the main category. Under that is other categories, and we see a bunch of lists here, and underneath we have the names of the person who created it, right? So in case somebody want to talk to this person here, they have to click on the name, and Ina Simon showed up, and we can start communicating right away. So that was also an additional feature that I had to add. Honestly, that was really difficult to pull off at one point, but now it's all said and done. And now that you have seen all the features of this, let's go to the next video where we start talking all the details of the app and go through a code walkthrough. All right, so now that you have seen the features and functionalities of the Moose Chat application, let's first dive in and see how the plugin framework was created and the shortcode was inserted into the WordPress page, and on top of that, the React code was implanted, right? So this is the plugin folder. And this is where I had my version 1. That was like a lot of experiments and such, but this is a better and the finished copy. So once we go into the folder, we see that the main file right here, MooseChat v2, and this is where it's just the base structure. I'm defining the plugin URL, and bringing in the styles PHP and the scripts PHP, and then pulling in the shortcode code, and just it's pretty simple. But if we want to look at the actual architecture, it actually has 3 different folders in them. One is the admin, front end, and include. Under the include, that's where my PHP files are. This is the styling. This is for styling. This is for a script upload, and this is a view folder where basically the base HTML is there. This was a few lines I put in for testing, but I'm going to remove them now. So it becomes like really simple. Basically, all it's doing is injecting a piece of HTML with a section and with an ID. And this is the ID where we're going to target our React application on, right? So now this one, and then let's check out the shortcode one. Okay, so there's some debugging code here. I can remove that. Save it. All right, so it's some basic stuff so that this file cannot be directly run from the outside. And then this is the main function for the shortcode. But this is where I'm actually calling in. Adding the shortcode. This is the name of my shortcode, and this is the function I'm calling. Now let's go look into the function. This is the function show MooseChat v2, and it's getting in some attributes, and I am getting the using this shortcode ATTS to. This is my basic structure for a shortcode attributes, but in this case I did not really need anything, so these are just fake stuff in there. It's a sort of like a template just sitting in there. If necessary, I could add features to it and extract them with this extract ATTS. and then use them in my plugin. Once this part is done, this is where I do the OB start, because this is from this part on I have my display HTML, right? So here I have a small HTML block with a class name of WordPress Shortcode. This is the base structure I use for all my shortcodes. This helps me, styling them if necessary. And in here I'm just pulling in that view which you just saw, which is this guy right here. This guy is now pulled in here, and then immediately afterwards I am collecting the content, whatever is in the middle of this OB start, using OB get content, and then OB end clean, cleaning up the buffers, and then returning the module content. That's pretty much the return of the function, the whole result, right? So all this is doing is giving me a nice little HTML block with an ID, right? Now let's go find out where I'm calling in the JavaScript. Now here I have two sections, admin and front end, because the admin section, it is also fully equipped with Gulp.js, and then it has this distribution and the source structure. Under the source I have my JavaScript modules, and I mean, whenever I need them I put them in there. And also my CSS structures are right here. In this case though, I'm not going to need my admin, but I'm going to need my front end, right? But where I'm targeting this from would be these guys right here, these two files, right? So let's first check the styles. Now the reason I keep calling it a framework is because the whole thing is already in my GitHub, so whenever I need it I pull it right in. Only thing I do first is just go to the main file, and I update this variable, right? Just change this variable according to my target plugin name. Like this is a Smooth Chat v2, so I just change that. I mean, these are the ones cause trouble if you get them duplicated, right? So these are the few things. I mean, I just quickly change this, and then I go to my styles file, and I wrote a little direction for me. Here this is my the main URL. I just have to rename them, right? So whatever the brand new application or like a plugin is gonna be, I just change this name. So now these variables are automatically changed, right? It just takes this name underscore backend underscore frontend. So that becomes a variable, and then I just pick out the whole thing here. Once I change this name, and then I just do a find and replace, which actually goes in since backend. These few places it just changes it, and then I change the front end, and these few places it just changes it. The rest remain the same, and it becomes ready to use immediately, right? So I can start coding. So and as you can see in here, for the styling, I am actually putting everything under, and for admin styles I'm putting under admin folder, which is this guy right here under the source, right? And in here for front end I'm putting them under front end folder, and the rest of the stuff is exactly the same, right? This is where I'm pulling them from. Initially like registering the style, and then immediately calling them with a WP on queue, and these are the IDs, right? These are the IDs that got changed from here, so they are usable immediately. And the same way under the scripts there is some debugging stuff still here, so I just remove that. All right, so it's now exactly pretty much the same. So I'm just according to my new plugin name, I just change this. That changes this constants. And I use constants because in here, when I'm registering script, I tried to use variable, but it did not take. So only way I could make them dynamic is by using constant. And just anytime I need the new one, I just search and replace, and that's how they're all take place and gets ready for new creations, right? New plugin creations. So and this part of the code, it would be loading the necessary JavaScript from the admin side, and they're gonna load under the admin folder. And in here, this script that I'm registering will be targeted towards the front end. So they're going to be loading from the front end assets and ... just everything rest are the same. And this is the front end folder they're targeting. And in here, for this specific plugin project, I actually needed the currently logged in user name, so that I can use it right here as soon as if somebody comes in, right? Somebody goes to their profile page, and immediately if they want to go to chat, right? So that's how they know who is the owner of this chat system, right? Because here, since the whole program or application is based on JavaScript, so I kind of globalize these users, and here I am testing that the user role must be subscriber, because when an admin goes in, it should not do anything, right? So once I do the check, if it is a subscriber, then I fill in these variables with current user email, first name and last name, and then I using this WP localize script, I just make these variables available globally for this plugin, and this is where you can find current WP user email, first name and last name, and this is where this is what I use to pretty much log them in. I mean, after all, this is a separate app. This is actually talking to a completely separate service, which is chat engine, which I talked about before, and I'm going to give you the details a little bit later. And also we'll come back here again once we start discussing the React part of it. So for now, we're just going to stick to the description of this, how this plugin was built. So that's pretty much how this plugin came about. And one thing to focus here is that how I am actually invoking that React application, right? To find that out, we have to go under front end assets, and then source, and then JS. And as you can see easily that all the stylings are right here. I mean, this is where I have all my SCSS for this project. For this one, right, all this styling coming from there. Now, to be honest, all this stuff I actually got done, when I was building the React application using Create React App. I built them separately and then brought this code in, because when you are trying to build JavaScript or React application on top of WordPress, and once they compile and everything, working straight on top of WordPress can be very difficult, because once you make a change, you have to refresh them. I had to actually refresh them 4 to 5 times just for the changes to take effect, right? So which becomes very annoying. So it's better to have a separate React program where you can actually style them up very fast, and may make sure code running and everything. If also debugging gets really easier. And after I was done, I brought in all these stylings from there and dropped them here. And also I had to make some necessary changes, because it was acting a little bit weird on WordPress, especially on the mobile side. So we'll get to that later. But right now, let's go cover the JavaScript part. I mean, that's how the React program was launched. So let's look into front-end assets, source, and then front-end JS. So this is where I'm actually loading up the modules. And initially, I mean, normally, if I'm doing a theme, this works, right? From my actual application, this whole thing, right? This actual self-list, application that's sitting on WordPress, I just used this and it worked. But when it came time to do the plugin, I found it that this this did not work. This did not work because the HTML was loading a little bit slower than JavaScript, because in JavaScript I was targeting IDs and such. But if HTML doesn't load on time, JavaScript doesn't work. So I had to bring in this jQuery, and this is sort of like an IFI I created to make sure that all the HTML is loaded. Basically, this is one of the old method calls for jQuery, which document ready. I mean, this is exactly what that is. It is pretty much the document ready for jQuery. So it will make sure that all the necessary HTMLs are loaded, and only then is gonna instantiate my module app with the new keyword, right? It's gonna instantiate. So now let's track down the actual app module, right? So yeah, we have to go to under modules. And this is where I have multiple things, like let's say JavaScript test, right? If I want to do vanilla JavaScript with ES6, ES7 structure with like a class or constructor based, I can actually do them right here, declare them here, and then go to my main app module. I mean, I should have probably named it main or something. Maybe eventually I will, but this is my main one that I am actually calling from this guy right here. See, modules app es6.js, right? So this is the guy, and this is where, if I want to load up any vanilla JavaScript module, ES6 class-based module, I can just load them right here with a new keyword. But to load up React, I needed to bring this module to React DOM, React, etc. And then also the Moose Chat. That's the main program. This is Moose Chat. That's the React program, right? So what I did in here, I used get element by ID, and do you remember now this ID? This guy came from this view right here, include view. See this little block with this ID Moose Chat v2, and this is what I am calling in, and then making sure that this is present on the page, because we don't want to start loading this thing on every page. So I just check for that first, and then I'm calling React DOM render and bringing in Moose Chat and giving them the location where to load, right? So that's how this plugin via this shortcode is loading this Moose Chat application, which is a React application. And that's how these are all being loaded up. And that's pretty much what I have to show you about the plugin infrastructure and the React implementation on this. And next, we're going to talk about the backend, which is the chat engine service. All right, so this is what I was actually talking about, the chat engine. This is the one actually powering up the Moose Chat application, which is a React application, and this is I'm using as a backend. So this is the one I actually we used my credit card, and this is the one I've been like, for example, if I go to users, this is all the users I've been creating and all the chats that have been happening. and they have other features, but the bottom line is, even though they say they're going to help you with email, there is no email address given anywhere, right? And these feedbacks and bugs, this has been sitting there for months. Nobody responded to it. Now this is the documentation. This is pretty good as long as you are sticking to the basics. Default is basically for a group chat, right? Like, this is what you're gonna get if you just put like the basic few lines. This is what you're gonna get. They did this pretty good. Like, these are the components. This helps you identify which ones they are. In my case, I actually did not do a group chat. I did a direct messaging, like a Slack system. So I completely got rid of whatever they have here. I completely redid this part, and the header. The only thing I kept from this interface is just this block, this middle chat feed block, because no point in changing this stuff here. This is pretty good. But by default, this is what you're gonna get. And even then, what they're saying is like render functions, right? You can actually be able to replace things, and replace them with your own components, which I have done. So they work pretty good, but what they don't mention is that it's buggy as hell. I mean, for desktop, I had no problems, but as soon as I moved to mobile, I started having all sorts of issues, and had to go through lots of workarounds. That you will have to also, and when I go to explain my React code, you're going to notice a whole bunch of React jujitsu I had to perform. So that's pretty much what the backend is. And one important thing I need to show you is that in my account here, right? I mean, how am I synchronizing the WordPress user to this guy right here? Because otherwise, what happens is, if you don't create the user ahead of time, these things will take a multiple refresh, right? Look at one refresh, right? It's okay, but it's pretty fast, right? But if you want to try to create the user on the fly, it's gonna the whole UI goes crazy. So what I had to do, I had to actually go down to the theme level, and this is my actually theme folder, and under assets, under source, under the JS modules. See, this is what I created for Chat Engine. Create WP user in Chat Engine. So this is something I connected via my, like, as soon as the user logs in, I just launch this JavaScript and collect the username, first name, and last name. Actually, now come to think of it, these global information are actually not coming from the plugins localized script. They are also in here under the theme running this function, which is script setup, right? So under the script setup, this is where I'm calling this main JavaScript function, all JavaScripts combined and minimized using a gulp.js. And in here, you can see ls app, then public, then WP content, ls in here. Let's go to themes and self-list. Under here, now this theme also wired with gulp.js. So to compile everything, I just do gulp.watch. Right, so this is where all this JavaScript gets compiled into one minified JavaScript. This guy right here, this guy right here, script.min.js. This is how it happens. So I took this ID, self-list main.js, and in here this is my global variable for the theme, self-list data, right? So it's pretty much exactly the same thing what I'm doing for my plugin and my theme. So this is where so let's go find out where this global information is, that on the website. In here, let's go look for, okay, right here. So this is also giving us the current user email, WP user first name, last name, right? And this is where our JavaScript here, this guy, collecting all this information. I'm synchronizing them. Like as soon as somebody logs in to my WordPress application, they just run this script collecting the user information, like the user email, first name and last name, and comes in here on the init function. I go ahead and create a user object according to the chat engine API, and then I call this create user function with the user attribute. I pass this object there, and in here, and I use this private key, the API, and in fact they have pretty good documentation on the API also. Let me see if I go to here and full REST API, right? So this is my most favorite part. This is where they actually give you the REST API. So once you have the REST API, you're free to do anything, like post or get or put whatever is necessary. You can do that, right? Using a private key that the account provides you with. So that's where I got the API URL, right? chatengine.io, and then user, and then I added the private key in the header, and then the rest is as usual, the then and catch. So using this, the moment somebody signs up here, this gets launched, and we end up creating the users. And this is the private key, by the way. So users right here. So once the user is created, then as soon as the logged in user clicks in, it automatically finds the user in the chat engine, and it immediately logs in. The whole process becomes very quick. And one thing I did forget to show is that another beauty of that plugin framework, just as you saw the theme building framework that I did here, this is my own theme building framework, so with all the Gulp.js setup, JavaScript, React compilation, and Sass compilation, everything there. So one thing I did forget to show is that this is also in here. Both front end and admin, they have their own Gulp.js structure. So if you want to go here, let's go again, cd app, and then plugin v2, right? As soon as you go there, you find this structure, you go under front end, and then you can just type in gulp watch, and this will compile, combine, and minify all your JS and stylings, all the styles. So that makes it a good framework to have. Everything is ready to go. So as soon as you see this is working, you can just start coding, right? So that's about it about the backend. I mean, this is the WordPress backend, and this is where all the users are being created for the project. These are all the users, and in fact, they're matching all of them here right now because they're connected by the sign up process. So that being said, it is time for us to get into the React application part of it. All right, this is time for us to dig down to the React application, which actually holds the whole thing right here, whatever you see. And this is located under front end. And this is by the plugin version 2, by the way. This is the plugin folder, front end, assets, source. And this is under modules, under React. Then we can find the first Moose Chat program. This is the one that initiates everything. And just to show you a background here, if we go under app ES6, and this is the Moose Chat module that I'm bringing in, right? In here, and this is the ID that is on the page, put in there by the shortcode. So now let's look at here. Here let's make it a little bit larger. Okay. All right, so what we have here is the basic React stuff, then some media query, Axios, and this is the main component to the React engine. And this is another get or create chat. This is the main function to create the DMs or direct messaging, right? So we're gonna see this over and over again. We'll talk about it in detail later. And then from here on down, all these guys are my own components. Basically, what I mean by own components is that when I needed to customize a whole bunch of things, and as you know, the chat engine service by default gives you only the ability to do group chat, but nothing to do with direct messaging. So I had to replace a heck of a lot of things, and this is how I did it. I actually went down to their GitHub repository and downloaded the entire code base, and from there I tracked down the modules and then went ahead and made my changes and made them mine, right? So that's how I customized it. So this is the beginning of the main function. And in here, from the localized global variables, I'm just pulling them in, all this data. For the chat engine synchronization, I did not want to go through some extra password problems. So since WordPress itself is maintaining the login, logout security, so I did not need any other different password for every user. So I kept that static, and that's how previously what you looked at, the user creation or synchronization JavaScript, that is also using this exact same password. So everywhere the standard maintained the same way. Now this is the media query stuff. One is for desktop and one is for mobile. I had to separate them because I was having a lot of problem following their documentation on mobile. They have multiple bugs on mobile. And here it is the parameter variables, window.location search, which is basically this guy right here in here, right? As I showed before, as you can see, Nina Simone Brubeck, they're here, right? So they happened when I did this. And let's say search for something, go there. And these people, they are the writers of this content, right? So when I clicked here, it automatically brought me here and opened up this DM channel was entered via this guy right here, right? So this is where I'm actually reading the URL parameters, and I'm calling it a listing member. Since this is coming from the listing index, this is how I'm collecting the listing member. and then according to the above info, I'm creating a logged in user object, and this object is actually created also according to the chat engine API, because in here, as soon as somebody clicks on that page, this is what getting launched, making sure the current user is present, all the information, and according to that, I'm using the project ID and the username and user secret to go ahead and this is how once you come here, it actually recognizes you as this user, this guy Tim Dillon, right? And this is how this is happening. This is the API call, and it's actually bringing in all the current chats for this user, current user. And if it didn't work, I just put in there just in case, then I have a mechanism in place that is going to make a post call to the API using the private key. So if a user isn't available, it's going to go ahead and create that user and then start the post chat program, right? And here's a dependency of the current user. Since this is a global variable, I know it's going to be always be available. In fact, this function, I think I can comment it out because this was one of the ones before, currently not being used, right? So this is older function, and this is the one I'm going to come back soon. And in here, I created an object calling it credentials, where I give you the currently logged in user, his password, and the project ID. So these are the credentials you need to launch your new components, right? Like if you look at here, as part of the documentation, now go there. So this was the most important one that I had to use, the render functions, right? So, all these components, I can actually, using the render functions, I could replace them with my own component, right? And in here, you will see the creds. There's an attribute called creds, which all these components need, most of these components need. So I had to actually find out what cred was, because otherwise I was collecting them from application state and it wasn't working, sometimes wasn't. So I had to make sure what this cred was about, and then I realized all it needed was these three information, which I already have, right? Which this main program already have. So I just created this credential, and then whenever necessary, like here, I started using them as props and sending them to my own components. So in here, as you can see, I have one for desktop and one for mobile, exact same component, but it is a bit different. The inner workings, basically because of a mobile bug they have, multiple mobile bugs they have. So what happens is they're telling me here, like, oh, you can render new form, render new chat form, which is basically this thing, this block right here. In here, you can render new chat form. None of it exists here because I replaced them. But if you really want to see it, let's go to component and let's go chat form. See, this is the chat form, right? So you click on the plus and then something drops down, you type in something and it starts a new group chat, right? Which I do not need. So what was happening is that as soon as I replaced with my own render chat form function, everything worked perfectly on desktop. But as soon as we went to mobile mode, right? As soon as we went to mobile mode, and I hit this X was not present anymore. So I could open it, but I could never close it. And there was this whole bunch of other stuff, issues popped up. But the bottom line was I could not, according to their document, this was supposed to work, but it did not work. So what I had to do, I had to call on this new, I installed this module, which is React responsive. From there, I collected this use media query, and this is how I created these two objects. One is desktop, which is more, larger than 575 pixel, and one is for mobile, which is smaller than 575 pixel. So according to that, I have, in my return function, I just separated them out. For desktop, I called in this render new chat form, and then I called in this function, and this function is very important because in here I'm actually calling my brand new component, new chat form moose, and at the same time I'm also checking for a listing member. And listing member, in fact, why don't I just get rid of this because I do not need it. All right, so what is listing member? Listing member is the one which was collected in here from the user parameters. So this is I mean, because of this little block here, like get or create chat, right? Now, according to the documentation, this guy is supposed to be able to just, if you, all you have to do, give it a like user object, and it should be able to create or find the correct user for you and create a DM or direct messaging tab right here, right here. And but in practicality, when I actually started using it, it failed to create, right? It was supposed to be creating it, but it could not create. So that is the main reason I had to bypass everything. I had to go to the theme, create that JavaScript, and as soon as the person logged in, I had to manually make an API call and use the straight API put function to create the user, so that this guy can just call and create the direct. So bottom line is, this can, if you already have a user, this has no problem creating a DM. But if you don't have a user, it's gonna crash. And all sorts of 403 or some error that I reported back to their GitHub repo issues, which nobody touches. No one got back to me. No one wrote any reply, nothing for over a month. So once again, use this if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, go find something else, because you're not going to get any help from this service. So anyway, so now that you know how the URL parameter user got created, so now let's go look at this module right here, new chat form moose, chat list, and here it is. Another file I do not need. So this is the guy, new chat form moose. So what's happening here is that now this one actually has whatever you see here, this is the close block, right? This is the close block, means when we go to the mobile mode, this is the guy, the X, right? I just restyled it. So this is the styling thing, and then in here I made a few changes according to my necessity, and it has this style object, style component. This is I changed a few number here and there, made sure it worked. And most importantly, what I added was, like, for example, this guy, this start messaging, this text was something else. I just wrote start messaging according to my needs, and then I called this guy direct message search. Now this is pretty fascinating, because even though this is a React application, in here these searches I'm creating with React because I am the one pulling the data from their API, so I can filter it as the way I want it. But in here though, this part, for this search, I had no way to control these guys. They were coming from by clicking here, by default, through one of my other components, and also these guys are being created via the URL parameters. So all different ways they are being created. So I have actually no control over it. So what I had to do in this direct message search, let's go find this guy. It's right here. In here, I ended up calling jQuery. Yes, I use jQuery inside React to get the job done. So in here, under use effect, I just read up, that input box, which I actually gave it a class of DM search input. This guy right here. And then called in a function search handler, and the search handler had the collected the input text, collected that chat card, right? Each of them are chat cards, right? So I collected all of them, and then now initially I put them through this loop here, cards.each function I.elm. Is elm supposed to be the element, and in here, since I'm using Bootstrap, I just used dnone. Dnone up, like a class, so to vanish them, and then as soon as anything matched the text, I just removed that dnone class, and they would show up, right? For example, if I hit J, so everything else gets the dnone class, and I just remove class from this guy. But it was completely broken, in so many places, because when I actually inspected this component, element, I found that just that class, which is CE chat, it is E chat card, CE chat card, right? So let's go find CE chat card. Yeah, the HTML in it is just horrible, right? See, this is chat card, but then this has a parent of a span, right, which has no class, and then a div, right? So because of that, whatever I was adding the dnone class to, it would left a whole bunch of residue that made my interface go berserk, right? So what I had to do here, I took that element and then went to the parent and the parent, which is, this is the span and this is the div, and that's what I collected, and that's what I used to add or remove class. So only then it worked nicely. Only then it worked nicely. Let's say A and then R, boom, like that, right? So even though this is a React application, I had to use jQuery to create this search possible, make this search possible, right? So that pretty much explains the left column, which is the chat list. All right, to talk about the chat feed or the middle column, let's I actually have to show something by creating or signing up for a new user, right? So let's all the information I put in already, so let me hit join. So right away we sign up and log in as Joe Rogan. And in fact, just to verify if my synchronization script worked, let's go back to this account, go to user, and go to page number 3, Joe Rogan is here. So we know now that we have this user available in the backend chat engine. And as soon as I click chat, it wastes no time, but logs in, right? Now, here's the thing. Initially, I thought, in fact, when I finished the desktop part of it, I did not even have to touch this block, right? I mean, I wasn't going to do anything here because there's no point, right? I mean, because, this, messaging styling, everything is good. All I needed to change was this block, this column and this column, right? But guess what? When I had to go check, like, let's say this is a fresh user, right? This is a fresh user, but usually, there was this block wasn't here, right? It would be empty, just this search engine, because nobody was added to this chat, right? This empty. So as soon as we reached this mobile version of it, right? What would happen is that all I'm going to see is this guy, nothing else. No top block, no bottom block, nothing. Only thing I would find is this. And this turned out to be a bug of, once again, another mobile bug of chat engine. So then I started digging deeper and looking for help. I did not find any help anywhere because very few people are using this. So there is not even anything on the Stack Overflow or any other sites like that, right? So then I figured, what if I could generate something as soon as somebody comes in, if I could just take that user, right, themselves, and use a chat with themselves, this block, that might resolve my issue, and it did. So that's why you see, as soon as a fresh user logs in, I give you, I actually turn that into a feature. Sort of like in Slack, you have your own channel so that you can, leave your notes, ideas, jot it down, things like that. So this is something I added as a feature, right? You can actually have your own data, like an idea, whatever, right? But at the same time, it resolved my problem with the mobile. So now, as soon as, somebody logged in, I actually found this guy working perfectly. All these things worked perfectly. But just to get to that, to generate this, oh my goodness. Now I had this other problem, right? I could approach it this way, from this function right here, render new chat form, right? I could probably use this, but the problem here is that it is only I can only use on the desktop, right? This I cannot touch this, like a new render chat form, you will not find here. Because if I use render chat form, my mobile window, another one, stops working. For example, this guy. Actually, why don't I just do it this way, right? So right now, okay. So here, what used to happen is that I would open this, but this X would be gone. I tried a whole bunch of things. I tried to create my own, but then again, I got into this huge state issue, and I was in a rush, and I had no help from the builder or their team of any kind. So I even created something with the jQuery, which did not work. So I had to have this. Otherwise, I won't have a finished product. So to do that, that's when I had to separate them out. For mobile version, I had to, not use that render chat form, right? So now what else can I do, right? What else can I do to, so that I can, as soon as somebody logs in, I can create a, like this block right here. So after a lot of efforts, it turns out that I could use the chat header, the chat header, and which belongs to, by the way, this block, this middle block. this guy right here, right? Chat header. So I took that chat header and turned that into my own component. Initially, I used two of them, one for desktop, one for mobile, right? But eventually, I actually discarded the first one, because you can use this if you want two different looks for your mobile and desktop. You can use several different texts, different styling, etc., which I did not need. So I ended up building this and using it for both my mobile side and my desktop side. See, render chat header. And that guy I only had to bring in because I needed to use this use effect. I took this item, this is pretty much, their own product, their own component. And I tried very many ways, like by passing this logged in user and the creds. So initially, this is how I, came up with the cred idea. I was, see, in the header, render chat header, right? So in render chat header, only thing it comes with is the chat, right? See, as a parameter. But that wasn't working for me because I needed to send the creds to my own chat header, so that, okay, let me close that. Okay, so this is my chat header. I had to send the cred, because otherwise I could not use this function right here, get or create creds. Sorry, get or create chat, which is my only function to be able to create this guy right here, the DM, right? So I started having issues. I mean, initially, I thought, oh, why don't I try to send the create chat app state? But there's nowhere I have the app state, because their render chat header function does not support app state. Like in this case, I could send chat app state, but to create the chat header, I could not. So that's the reason I actually, initially I could send the logged in user, because the current user is logged in user, as a prop. And if you look at this function, we need two things. We need this logged in user, which is the listing memo. Sorry, actually, let's look at this guy right here. I'll explain what this is. Okay, logged in user, right? I needed this logged in user, which I could send via props, right, like that. But this I could not think of, because at that point I did not know what was inside that creds or credentials. So after looking through lots of console logging later, I found out that all you need to create the creds object is this, which all of them I already had available: the project ID, the password, which I'm hard coding, and the current user that I got from my global variable. So now I have my creds and I have my login user, so I easily can send it through props right here. And this guy now very happily collected this login user and creds, and under the use effect, it just as soon as somebody signed up, you have to generate, I mean, on sign up, you always have this block, this header will be there, right? So as soon as somebody signed up and logged in, I just launched my function under use effect, and pass my creds that I passed through the pops, and my username, which is the current logged in user, and I created a nice little block right here, right, which resolved my mobile issue. Now the thing is, how about customizing these guys, right? Writing it like changing this text to my note and self-list chat, etc., etc. So those actually happened right here. So under this chat header, they have two drawers. One is chat list drawer, which is the left column, and the other one, the chat setting drawer, which would be the right column. This is the chat setting drawer. I mean, they're calling it drawer because they're using it for mobile. So this is the drawer, right? See, these are the drawers. So these are the code for, those are completely different components. And because of that, with the regular SAS, I could not even access them. So I had to come here and make my changes inside the application, inside the component, changed color, changed text. And when I go here, the main chat program, right here. See, this is where I changed the header. And normally they're checking for title. If there was no title, they're bringing in a loading icon, which kept circling, right? So I had to change that because in here, you cannot have something just circling, because it was circling because it did not find a chat title, because under the chat, these are the chat card, they see the username as the chat icon, I mean chat head title. Since I'm logging in myself, like whoever is logging in, that logged in user is there, so it wasn't finding the title because it wasn't other than the logged in. I mean, it was the logged in user, but not the other users that it was designed to do. So I removed that and I just hard coded my self-list chat right here. And let me see, where else did I make change? And yes, I should mention this because having only this did not work for me, because remember I had to also make this feature available on mobile, because this is a completely separate component. Like I said before, on desktop this is not used. So that feature that I have, that you could go to a list index page and click on a writer or a list owner's name, and that would dynamically via the URL parameter create a direct messaging block for you, right? So that this part, if I didn't put it here, that wouldn't work under this block right here under mobile. So because of that, I had to bring in this feature also. So once again I collected the URL parameter username. Since that person I named listing member, so it would check for listing member. If it doesn't find it, then it will go ahead and create the regular user who is currently logged in, just to give us a direct messaging block, which will help us bypass that mobile bug that we were facing. So that's the explanation for this whole component to come about. I mean, this is the only change I ended up doing on this chat feed, because other than that I did not have to make any more changes. And now that also I'm here, I should also talk about the chat card moves, because this is the chat card, because this cards that you see here, right? I mean, also if I click on here, this chat card gets created, and from the URL parameter, this chat card gets created, so I had to customize it. So this is also another component. If you look here on both desktop and mobile, I'm actually rendering a chat card right there. See, render chat card, right? Pretty much maintaining everything they mention in the documentation, right? So this is the chat card. This is where like instead of my the chat title, I put in my notes. Instead of say hello, write message, and then styling wise, I just change the colors and such in here. And that being said, that explains my chat feed, the chat feed header, which helped me resolve my whole application's mobile look and feel and functionality. All right, so now let's talk about the render chat settings. We've already talked about the new chat form, which is the left column, chat header, middle column, and a chat card that is basically every single one of the little guys right here, right? The DM boxes. Now let's talk about the render chat settings. I mean, even though they are calling the render chat settings because in their app, this part they use for the chat setting, group chat settings, right? So what in my case, I'm calling it, basically the user list, which, I basically completely replaced it with my own component here. And in here, I am also sending the logged in user and the creds as a prop, right? And even in here, actually, I mean, this is something, a change I should have made before, but I'm going to, is that now that I actually have a credential one, object, right? I should have just passed that, because this gave me some trouble, when it came to mobile again, because on the mobile, for some reason, the same component needed the chat app state.creds. From inside this object, another object I had to pass through. But on desktop, the same, app state worked perfectly, right? For some reason, I mean, that gave me all sorts of extra headache. But what I'm going to end up doing, because I don't really need the app state, since I already have this object created, so I'm just going to, send cred as credentials. That's all I'm going to need. So now let's go look what this render chat setting is all about. So to find this guy, we have to go, let's say, is right here, chat user search. Okay, so this is basically this is no longer something that I took from their component and made mine. This is 100% my component. In here, you see the usual stuff loaded up and the media query, and I'll tell you why I needed the media query here. And I created this is desktop and is mobile. So just straight away, I create this function to, async function to go collect, straight make a get call from the user API endpoint, and then the headers. In the headers, I put in the private key. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to create, even though I have a set pending, true, false, etc. I mean, I have the item here, but I didn't have time to use it to put in a some sort of loading icon, right? Which I will do. But that's why this provision is here. And in here, I have the users. Users constant as a using use state. So this is what I'm updating here, all the users that I get. I'm putting it under set user to update this user. And then in here under use effect, I also have that same make direct messaging function, because these guys, when I pull them in, I'm also wrapping them in a button and giving them a function to call. Like, that's the reason when I click this user here, this creates a DM here, right? Anyway, it will be cleared out as soon as I get up here. And now here's the interesting part. And the reason this is interesting is because this part right here, pick users for DM, only works here for the desktop. But as soon as this becomes a mobile app, this was different. This was coming from under the chat header moose mobile chat setting drawer. See, this is how they did the mobile stuff. And so I had to go in here to find this guy right here. See, in here, it was saying chat settings, right? Which wasn't gonna work for me. So this is the one I changed for the mobile. But what was happening is that, without the media query in place, I was having two headers, the pick user DM here and another one coming from my own component, which was this guy right here. So for that reason, I had to control this component showing up. I limited it to desktop only. So as soon as it would reach the mobile one, this would disappear and this guy would take over. This guy will be there, and this guy comes from this chat setting drawer as a header, as a title. And I made some changes here in styling just so that, give it like the color red, and also the distance, make it centered so that it's not close by this, etc., etc. And then comes this guys, right? This is also another part that regular SCSS or CSS could not take over. So because of that reason, in here, I had to divide them up. This is the input box. This is where the query happens, in this guy right here, right? I did not really need to make any changes to that. This is working, but just because I could not give them a style, because under desktop, when I'm collecting the users and mapping them through and showing them as buttons, right? Here I have a regular class, DM button user, that I'm actually styling using the Sass that's coming from my plugins Sass block right here, right? This front end SCSS. But whenever they're showing up here, right, none of those styles took over. I mean, it just flat out sat there without any borders or nothing, right? So that's why I had to create this is mobile variable up here using this guys, React responsive, use media query, is mobile, right? This is how it's the one is min width 575, above 575, and the other one is max width with below 575. So below 575 is now is mobile, and in here, see, is desktop, the regular styling is CSS, everything's there, but in here I actually disabled that. I mean, I can just remove it right now. This is the regular class based. So instead, I just used bootstrap classes, BTN outline danger, BTN block, just to make it look okay, acceptable, so that, I don't have to use a CSS module here anywhere. I just save some time that way. And other than that, these two blocks look exactly the same. Basically, what's happening is in here, all the way up, I'm creating a variable called query, and then this is my input box, input element, which I have like a placeholder, a name, ID, etc., and an onChange function, which is set query to e.target.value. That means that query variable will now hold whatever input the user puts in, and depending on that, now I'm using the users.filter, putting the user through, and I'm doing two type of search. One is user.firstname, and I'm converting it to a lowercase and includes the query, whatever the text, the set query set up, and also converting it to lowercase so that it is case independent. So whatever case the user puts in, I convert both, lowercase on both sides and match them. And then I'm using a, or operator and do the same thing on the last name. And based on this result, I'm mapping them. And once they go in, at the very beginning, I'm checking for the logged in user, because you don't want, yourself showing up here, right? So I'm just, returning null. So as soon as the logged in user is found, he's skipped. and then we see the output button, and the button I have a using the user ID as key and giving them the class name necessary, and using an on-click function on each, directing them to make direct messaging function, and I'm giving them the username I need to be created. And this is the function that gives the ability to create a chat card, a brand new chat card on demand. And here I'm getting the creds from right here. The creds I'm getting from straight from the as a prop from the main Moose Chat function, Moose Chat component, and thus I'm able to do this stuff. Like, let's say I want to see Dave Brubeck. Click, go in, Brubeck is here. And if I want to see, let's say, who's missing? Okay, let's say Michael Johnson. Click on here, and Michael Johnson shows up right there. So that's pretty much it for this right side. It's actually comparatively simpler one where I get to control everything, right? But also doing this, I faced the mobile bug issues that I had to resolve in very much of creative ways. I mean, this stuff I don't need. Okay. And one last thing I should mention, that once I brought in those components, I faced lots of problems because they had dependencies. So like, for example, this context, this chat settings, effects, utilities, all those I had to bring in from the code base, and I had to make necessary path changes like this, like up here, like whatever they needed, like this kind of stuff. These paths I had to change to make them work. I mean, that was a big hassle, but finally I got it done. Thus, I have this complete, project in here, a full-blown React application with a API backend, and being generated on top of WordPress page, which is possible via a shortcode using a plugin. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button and the subscribe button. This will help me bring more free contents like this to you every week. Thanks again.